DK Metcalf from the Seattle Seahawks, and you're watching NorbCam.
What's up, everybody? This is NorbCam coming at you on this Blue Friday for another episode of the Roundtable, and I've got to say, this is going to be one of the most entertaining roundtables in the history of roundtables. We've got history in the making here, but we are still missing one of the roundtables. This is more like a triangle right now, but I'll tell you why. If you haven't already read in the title, this has never happened before, and I'm excited to see how this episode plays out because it was something else. So we were still waiting on Steezy, but that's okay. You know, the show must go on. He'll be here. He's rolling into his place, probably frantically get his mic and his tie put on. So in the meantime, let's bring in the roundtable, at least 2/3 of the roundtable, or is it 3/4? 3/4 if you include myself. So here we go. There they are. You had a sneak peek of them at the beginning when I actually had the screen on, the wrong screen when I first started. But hey, you know, it's live TV. So we got it right here to my left. We've got Squabo Says all the way from Pullman, Washington. Let me make sure your mics are on here. There we go. What's up, man? How you doing, Squabo?
I'm good. This is gonna be a fun show. I'm sure of that much so far. It's always fun when, you know, we join the StreamYard a little bit early and we're just terrified of saying a word. That's definitely what it felt like today, and I can't wait to let it out.
And there's Daniel way on the far side there, beaming from ear to ear with that S-eaten grin. We'll tell you why in a second. But Daniel of Dovinh Group, he's been sponsoring my show all year, which I greatly appreciate. And we're here to talk about something very historic. But first of all, Daniel, welcome back to the show, man. How you doing today?
You know, I'm doing super well. I'm super excited to eat my steaks that I won from last week's show. So I'm going to get a workout in right after this so that I have an excuse to eat extra steaks. So very excited to be here. We're going to give Calvin a bunch of crap for being late today, which is going to be awesome. And very exciting. There's a lot to talk about this week. Super excited to be here, so thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, we always give Steezy a hard time. Steezy, he's consistently the last one to show up on the roundtable, not only on my show, but even on Squabo's show. I think he's saying that it wouldn't be a Squabo show. It wouldn't be the Bolt show if it didn't have Steezy showing up, coming at the last minute, right, Squabo?
Whenever we start the show, if we start it and he's already there, we're late. I think that's how it works.
Well, while we're trying to kill time, because we can't get into the meat and potatoes of things. Pardon my pun. Steak, meat and potato. Squabo, let me give Squabo a chance to talk about. We mentioned your show coming up here. Tell everybody out there about your channel since we're killing time. Might as well talk a little bit about what you got coming up and what's going on with your channel. Go for it, Squabo Says.
Man, that's funny. We're holding off on our thoughts about the fun topics, but my tears are ready, right? Like I'm ready to just let it out. So coming up later on today's show, we're not just going to be talking about the things that we're talking about here today. We have a lot of other things to discuss, like the NBA trade deadline, and we're making some predictions. We're talking about the most realistic trade that we think is going to happen, and we're talking about a crazy blockbuster trade that we could see coming to life. We're also talking about the Brian Flores lawsuit in the NFL, accusing the NFL and 3 teams of not hiring, of malpractices and hiring black head coaches. And so there's a lot of serious topics on the show today. We're also talking about the NFC Championship game, talking about key matchups heading into the Super Bowl. It's a lot of stuff to enjoy. It's going to happen at 4 p.m. And just yesterday on my channel, I'm super excited about this. Y'all know I'm a student at Washington State University. It was my first ever news package as a reporter for like a TV station. It's Murrow News 8. It's another TV station at Washington State. And I did my package on how much masks can make life difficult. And it was a lot of fun. It's only 1:30, so it's definitely an easy watch. So I definitely recommend going and checking that out.
Okay. All right. And I just want to remind everybody to keep on chatting away. There's a lot of funny chats going on right now. But if you don't know what to chat about, just let us know where you're watching from. I always love to see where people are watching from, because some people are close by, just miles away, and some people across the globe in other countries. So Lori Cross, one of my devoted NorbFam members. Reminds everybody, Squabo's only 164 subscribers away from 1K. So please subscribe to Squabo Says channel. It's in the description. And you can type it in there too, Squabo, if you just want to remind everybody where to go for the quick link to it. But make sure you hit him up because he's this close. Come on, let's get him over the hump. He deserves that. So let's go to Daniel. Oh, go ahead, Squabo.
I'm sorry. Like last week, I did a crazy bet. We're gonna talk about it. I'm on time. I'm eating. This is the Eating Crow show. If there's ever a reason to just show me the love and just be like, hey, I appreciate him showing up, knowing that he was drastically wrong about what happened last weekend. So.
You weren't the only one. It was just you and Steezy were dumb enough to put bets on it. I opted out. I was like, I think this is going to happen, but I'm not going to take that one. So let's go to Daniel. Daniel, while we're still waiting for Squabo or Steezy, he's getting the tile, set up here. But Daniel, why don't you tell everybody a little bit about Dovinh Group and what you do, man?
Yeah, so I run a team of 12 people, and we serve clients from Pierce County through King County and Snohomish County, mainly in residential real estate. And right now, you've probably heard the terms like, oh, it's a crazy market. Well, it's only crazy if you don't know what you're doing. And we're backed by an amazing company here at Marketplace, Sotheby's International Realty. Also, if you have any questions about moving to another country or buying investment in another country, we have agents in 74 countries, 24,000 total agents, and we're here to serve you. We actually started out as an auction company many years ago. I think it was 1744. So there's been a lot of experience in this company about helping people transact very valuable goods, and real estate is definitely one of those forever valuable things. I don't know about, what you guys think about real estate, but I don't think God is making any more land here on earth anytime soon. So definitely classic supply and demand situation. And at the end of the day, we're here to serve the people of the greater Seattle area. So if you have any questions about anything real estate related, feel free to give me a text or call. And thank you very much.
There you go. And you can always, run a bet by him if you think you know something smarter than Daniel about things, and you can do what Squabo managed to do. So we're still waiting for Steez, but just to kind of give you a lowdown where we're going to go for the next hour or so. We're going to talk about the AFC Championship and the NFC Championship games. We're going to talk a little bit about the new hire. Just broken news today that Clint Hurt was promoted to defensive coordinator from within the company, within the Seahawks, but he's got a little help. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. And then there were a couple of podcasts that went over the airs the last few days of KJ Wright and Richard Sherman speaking a little candidly about their feelings about what happened with the Seahawks, and Richard Sherman talking about the 12s, actually. We're going to play the clips of that, and so you guys can hear it yourself if you haven't already, and we're going to react to a little bit about that. And if we have some time, maybe put our initial thoughts on the Super Bowl, which is coming up a week from Sunday. And then we of course got Russell Wilson doing Russell Wilson type things, tearing it up in the Pro Bowl skills competition last night. I don't know if you guys saw that, but man, he was on fire, just dominating. Maybe not in the dodgeball game, but definitely in the passing skills competition, he was doing Russell Wilson type things. His finger looks pretty good. So closing in on a few minutes. Steezy's giving the play-by-play, so he's getting close. We can't go to our first one because without Steezy, we can't talk. No, we could talk. We could do. Let's talk a little bit about the NFC Championship game because we'll wait for the AFC since that one is the highlight of the topic. Let's talk about the NFC Championship game. So the championship weekend in general was quite the didn't disappoint. It was just like the week before. Games that came down to the final seconds, overtime in the AFC game. The NFC game came down to also a field goal difference. So I think none of us were disappointed in the way that the games played out. Definitely the ebbs and flows were pretty weird. But 49ers had a chance to win that game up 17-7 late in the third quarter, but they just could not do enough to match the Rams' firepower. Let's go to your take on the Rams game. I think we all thought the Rams were going to do it, but I don't know if we ever thought that the 49ers were going to be, have that 10-point lead. And were you at some point thinking that maybe they'll pull this thing off? Because I was thinking, well, this looks pretty good, but Wasn't confident in it. Squabo, what was your take on the game? The Niners and the Rams.
I wasn't too confident in the 49ers, just like you. I wanted to see them win. I was hoping that they would win. I also had a bet on this game, and I ended up winning this bet because of the fact that they didn't win. So I was okay with them losing. But look, this game comes down to a couple of key plays, right? There was the play that you were talking about when they were up 17-7 in opponent's territory, 4th and 2. They take a delay of game, and they ended up punting. They end up losing the game by 3 points. They were in opponent's territory at that time. By the percentages, I've seen a lot of people break down the percentages from different websites, and statistically, it's more probable that you win the game if you go for it. But this is a bigger issue with the 49ers. And it's something that we've seen from Kyle Shanahan in the biggest of stages. It's when the lights are shining the brightest. In the Super Bowl against Kansas City, as the offensive coordinator in the Super Bowl for Atlanta against the New England Patriots, he gets scared. He goes away from the aggressive side, his aggressive nature. He doesn't go for it. He doesn't go try and make the play. In the Super Bowl with the Falcons, he was running the ball instead of passing it, which had been so successful. In the Super Bowl against the Chiefs, there were some questionable offensive play calls and not very aggressive in key situations, including a 3rd and 5 situation. Now, in this game, up by 10 points in opponent's territory, an opportunity to get, I think it was an 83% chance of victory if they can convert this, and they don't go for it. And instead, it comes down to their quarterback with a chance to go win the game, Jimmy Garoppolo, in the end. And it is time to start officially, as Seahawks fans, driving down the stake of Jimmy Garoppolo. Pardon my language, the steak reference, okay? Jimmy Garoppolo is obviously getting traded this offseason. They're obviously moving on to Trey Lance. So it's so important that as Seahawks fans, as an NFL community, we convince the world that Jimmy G is not the guy that can get you over the top. He had an opportunity to go win this game like they'd won 2 previous times throughout the season. And once again, he made a play that cost them the game. It was a bad pass, a bad idea that got tipped up and intercepted and ended their season. Poetically, that's going to be his last game in a 49ers uniform. They're looking to trade him, and now it's time to really shine the light on how terrible he's been in the biggest of moments. Whoever trades for him is not getting a Super Bowl winning quarterback.
I think it's a little unfair. Everybody looks at that final play. The lasting image of Jimmy Garoppolo is going to be him spinning down in the hands of Aaron Donald, frantically throwing the ball in the air to his running back and getting intercepted. That's his lasting legacy of a final image, which is very appropriate. But it's really not. It shouldn't have come down to that. Like you said, the earlier play where they could have gone for it in Rams territory, and they didn't. And I want to back up against in that play. Why did they give it to Deebo Samuel? Why did he not touch the ball in that series there when they had 3rd and short and 4th down? Deebo Samuel has been a freaking beast throughout these entire playoffs and the end of the regular season. How does he not get his hands on that ball? That's the first question I have. But secondly, you failed to mention the interception that was so in the defender's and Tart's hands. I could have caught that ball. It was just right here. And granted, that wasn't the end of the game. It was like still early. I think it was late 3rd quarter. If he gets that interception, they're still up at that point, I think, by a field goal. If he gets that, no, that's 4th quarter. If he gets that, he's got a lead with that ball, and who knows where it goes from there. If they score a field goal, they go up by a touchdown, at least one score, or they score a touchdown, becomes a 2-score game at midfield. There's around midfield when he caught that ball, and instead, right away, turn around, they get the ball right back, and then they go down the field and march and get a field goal to tie the game up. So that was another crucial play that didn't involve Jimmy Garoppolo that they should have had. So I mean, to me, that was the biggest missed opportunity. The first one was the not going for it, and then that interception that should have been. But again, missed opportunities, which seemed to be the theme all throughout the last weekend. So Daniel, I know we kind of covered a lot there, but what's your take on add to this NFC Championship game? What else did we miss here?
Yeah, I think you make a crucial point. I think it's very important when, the lights are shining the brightest that you know who you are. And we saw that in our 3rd Super Bowl as Seahawks fans, right? We went away from our identity. And Deebo is clearly the best offensive player they have. Him and George Kittle, right? And he's only, I think, second to Jamar Chase as far as yak, right? Yards after the catch. And, I think it went to show that the Rams were just a way more talented and ready team across the board, right? Special teams, offense, and defense, and particularly at the quarterback position. I will give it to them, though. I think it was a classic NFC matchup. They're always playing tough. They're always in the game. They're running the ball, playing good defense overall. But the Rams just had too much firepower. I think Cooper Kupp has just had an incredible MVP-type season. I think they did a great job of keeping Cam Akers, kind of on the sideline until he was really, 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 really ready to go to finish off the playoffs. I think the Rams – best defensive players, Aaron Donald in particular, showed up when the lights were the brightest. And I think all those things combined for a very slim margin of error in the NFL. And so personally, I'm kind of happy that it wasn't the 49ers. I'd rather the Bengals beat the Rams than the Bengals beating the 49ers, because I don't want to hear it. And I don't, from my 49ers friends, they're definitely the most prideful bunch of football fans I know. They're like, we got 6 of them. How many do you have? I'm like, well, what have you done for me lately? What have you done for me lately, 49ers? Anyway, so that's my general take. I think it goes to show also that trade for Matt Stafford was a pretty good one, I would say. And then picking up Odell Beckham Jr. was a pretty good pickup as well, especially when they had some key injuries happen. Robert Woods, remember him tearing up the Seahawks this year multiple times, making Jordan Brooks look like a rookie? That was not that long ago. And so the Rams are for real. They're going to be playing at home. That's pretty dangerous. But I'm also kind of glad it wasn't the 49ers, because they don't look like a Super Bowl team. Not with Jimmy G there. Sorry. They look like a good-looking team, but I'm sorry. Good-looking doesn't win you championships.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely right. We got a couple of some of the best quarterbacks. Patrick Mahomes up in that list, but Joe Burrow is a nice follow-up to that. You have the young guy against Stafford, who's been around the league for a while, so it's going to be it is a really good battle between these two teams. So we'll talk about that in a little bit. So again, I'm still trying to kill time, and I don't want to talk about the AFC Championship game. So what I do want to do is I want to pivot a little bit. Let me play this. That's well. All right, let's talk about the Richard Sherman thing, because I want to save the KJ Wright thing when we talk about the defensive coordinator, and I want to get Steezy's opinion on that. So I'm shuffling the deck here. I'm going to play the Richard Sherman video clip, and you guys can listen to this. Have you guys heard it? What Richard Sherman said on his podcast?
Yes.
All right. So for all of you who haven't heard it,
I have not.
Oh, you haven't? Okay. Well, I'm hoping to play this without getting any kind of copyright violation. So I'm taking a risk here, but anything for the fans. On his podcast, check it out.
I think and Seattle fans are going to hate to hear this, because it's just they hate accountability these days. But they're probably going to get rid of Bobby, and once you do that, that's it. That's it. You're in rebuild. I don't care if Russell's there or not there. You're in rebuild mode if Bobby Wagner is not there. And people are like, man, we got to, because you either die the hero, or you live long enough to become the villain. And everybody's learning that the hard way. Russell's learning that. You either leave the hero or you stay long enough to become the villain. Because no matter what, these fans had never won anything before we got here. Yeah. They had never won anything. They went to the Super Bowl in 2006 and we're happy to be there, Yeah. And that was their biggest claim. And then we get there, we win the Super Bowl, we spoil them with historic defense, and then all of a sudden that's their expectation. Now their expectation is we're going to the Super Bowl every year. Like, y'all have only been to 3 in the history of your organization. Franchise, yeah. Now you're going every year. No, but you can't appreciate that, because now people are saying, let's get rid of Bobby. He costs too much money. So there is no guarantee you're going to keep them. There's no guarantee Bobby stays. And when people start to talk like that, and then you get what you wanted, because they were talking about get rid of us. And they were like, we got replacements. We got LOB 2.0. And then you got rid of us. And then you realize you don't. You realize we were once in a generation type talent, and you should have kept it and appreciated when you had it. So I think the identity of a Pete Carroll and a championship team, as it always has been, is run the ball, limit the turnovers, play solid defense. The best defense is a good run game. You run the clock. You spend less time on the field. You get stops when you need them. That's what they were doing at the end. That's what their formula was. That's how they won those games at the end. That's how they beat Arizona. Rashad Penny was, I forget, I can't name him exactly, but I think his rushing stats were like 190, 179, 160, in the last couple games. And of course they won those games.
Yeah.
And people were like, let Russ cook. You did not win a Super Bowl letting Russ cook. You have not.
Burn.
So there's a lot. There's a lot there to kind of to break down. But essentially, he kind of first starts by saying the 12s are sort of spoiled. They didn't know there was no winning until 2013, and after that, everybody got spoiled and expected them to be at this high level. We didn't appreciate the LOB. We didn't keep them there long enough, is what he's basically saying. That if we let go Bobby, it's going to be the end of it. It's going to be a full rebuild, and that basically he's basically supporting Pete Carroll in his defensive philosophy, saying it's defense wins championships. You run the football. And letting Russ cook is not going to win you a Super Bowl, would not have won them a Super Bowl. That's essentially the crux of what he's saying. Squabo, curious, your reaction to, you've heard it for the first time. What's your reaction to hearing that?
Richard, I can appreciate some of the things that you're saying because I know you're not talking to me, right? Because I was on air talking about how I want to pay Earl Thomas even after he got hurt, just because of what he'd done for our franchise. I was on record saying I want to keep Richard Sherman, along with, everyone else a part of the Legion of Boom. And I was concerned about the new guys, the Kerry Williams trying to replace the Byron Maxwells and the Brandon Browners of the world, right? And so as we moved on, I was one of those fans, and I'm sure there are a lot of people listening who actually did appreciate, but he's only talking when he's using those phrases about the people that weren't appreciative and that had those high expectations. Now, when you say that he is supporting Pete Carroll's defense wins championships run game mantra, I agree that he's saying that can be successful. But he's also one of the people that was so appalled and against the fact that we did pass it on the 1 yard line in the Super Bowl, which also is the big reason that was supporting my claim that ever since that moment, because we went away from our identity, Pete Carroll is no longer the guy that can galvanize this locker room and convince us to be who we are when he's gone away from who he is. And so even if that is our mantra, I feel like Pete Carroll's proving me right Richard Sherman is proving me right that as long as Pete Carroll is here, we're not going back to the Super Bowl. We're not going to win a Super Bowl. And it's only when we get a new face that can bring that identity, whether it is letting Russ cook. And I'm okay with letting Russ cook if we fully embrace it and we go for it. But I haven't seen us stick with the letting Russ cook thing. That 1 year that we did, we went away from it in the second half. Our offense was terrible. Our defense turned out to be spectacular, but we didn't have the finish to the season that we wanted. He's talking mostly to the people that are naysayers for the Seahawks. That's my take.
Daniel, how about you? What's your take reacting to this?
Yeah, I try to have empathy for where these guys are coming from because I loved them when they were playing on the team, and I still like them now. Ultimately, I'm a Seahawks fan, but, the team and the organization mean nothing without the players, right? Players play, coaches coach, leaders lead, and management's supposed to manage, right? That being said, we have to keep in mind that Richard Sherman is, one of the all-time greatest Seahawks. He's definitely going to be in the Ring of Honor. Time heals as well. I think as time goes on, some of the anger might subside, but we got to keep in mind that he's still very hurt that we released him while he was injured. And I think that was very devastating for him. I also think that there's a lot of facts that he said that are simply true. We might not like his delivery, but when he's on your team, when I remember when he was playing for us and with us, right? People were saying, man, can you imagine this guy going to another team? We'd probably hate him, right? Because why does the league hate him so much? Why does Darrelle Revis hate him so much? Michael Crabtree, right? The entire 49ers. And then when he left, we got a taste of our own medicine because, he got healthy again. He had a pretty good season. They went to the Super Bowl, right? And he started chirping, right? And then he got injured again, and then the chirping kind of stopped, right? That being said, he's still a local guy. I don't mean to name drop or anything, but some of my clients are in his family, right? And that being said, I think that his passion can come across poorly to some people, but I think here's some of the facts he said. We have only been to 3 Super Bowls. We were spoiled by, 4 straight lowest points allowed defense, right? We did win a championship, but I will disagree with Richard on this. I think that we absolutely did appreciate them when they were here playing. Are you kidding me? The LOB has so much love around here, especially when they were, playing, and, they're the most beloved, sports team of all time here, arguably, right? Cam Chancellor, Earl, Richard, Cliff Averill, Bobby, all those guys on defense in particular. So I would say that that's a ridiculous statement. Also, I would say that his terminology saying that we are, what did he say about our accountability? We don't like accountability.
Yeah, he said that 12s aren't going to like this because we don't like or don't have accountability. Essentially,
here's my take on this. I think a lot of people are interpreting this as we as fans don't want to hold the players accountable. I've heard that take. I heard that take from Brendan Nelson on his YouTube channel, but it's actually the reverse. I think what Richard Sherman is actually saying is we as fans don't like to be held accountable ourselves for our high expectations. And the truth is I fully admit I do have high expectations, but that's not a bad thing. It's like if you have a great romantic relationship, do you really want your next one to be worse? Like less romantic, less friendship, less peace, less care and love? No, you're like, actually, I want to keep that, standard. Having high standards is not a bad thing, Richard. That's how you guys got here in the first place. You knew in your heart that you're like, I could be a Hall of Famer. Why am I getting drafted in the 6th round? And then you upped your game. So we can sit here and complain, or we can be grateful. And I think that over time, I hope all Seahawks fans and all those players, everyone is just grateful for the time of so much winning. That's why, despite all the crap that happened last year, I still ultimately have always supported Pete Carroll and our players because, having a long-term perspective here, he was the head coach during the most golden era of Seahawks. And that's how I feel about Richard Sherman as well. He was the best cornerback on a team that had the best defense for 4 years. So, like I said, there's a lot of passion there. There's a lot of facts, but there's also a lot of, slight inaccuracies as well. I think maybe he's right about the younger fans that didn't, experience the 70s, 80s, 90s, early 2000s. But as far as us, I think we were absolutely loving on the LOB when they were there. So I don't know what he's talking about in that regard.
Yeah, I think he's got a mix of things that he got right and some things that he got wrong. I don't know about the whole accountability from the fans because we have no say in what the Seahawks do. He almost made it like the fans decided to kick the LOB out because we didn't appreciate them. I don't get my way. I don't get to call up Coach Carroll, hey, Coach, it's time for the LOB to go, so make it happen, dude. So we can only just react to what's going on. We can cheer, we can not cheer or whatever, and we can post things up, but ultimately the Seahawks are the ones who decide the fate of the LOB. We didn't. So I appreciated it. I knew we were watching something special, and when it slowly got dismantled, some by injury, some by retirement, some by the fact that it was just bad timing with contracts being up. Of course, we all wanted to stay together, but we knew it couldn't last forever, both financially and practically speaking. But as far as the are we in a total rebuild if we don't re-sign Bobby? I don't necessarily agree with that. I think because he made it sound like if you re-sign, if you don't re-sign Bobby, it doesn't matter if you keep Russell, you're rebuilding. I don't fully agree with that, because I think if you don't keep Russell, you are rebuilding. But Bobby Wagner, that could be debated, I think, in terms of both of them are huge high value. Both of them are one of the few players that are still left from the 2013 Super Bowl. But, if you've had to weigh the two of them, I think one slightly outweighs the other in terms of how dependent they are on that person being on the squad. The final thing is he, does he subscribe to the Pete Carroll style of offense? Well, I personally still myself don't disagree with Pete Carroll that is a successful way to go, that you run the ball. We saw it at the end. I agree with Richard Sherman all the way. We saw what happened when you're running the ball like we had been dominating at the end. Russell Wilson, they can nail with those deep passes with the play action. It's a beautiful thing. And but you got to have a run game, which we didn't have most of the season, and you got to have defense, which we didn't have at the beginning of the season. So all that stuff contributed to the failure of the Seahawks to make the playoffs this year. So I think he was right in that regard, and I wouldn't disagree with him. So you could go listen to it, Google it, check it out, and you can decide for yourself. But right now, more important things have come up, and that is Steezy Smith is back with us. He is in the show. Steezy, we have been waiting for you, with bated breath for you to be on the show. I'm glad you finally made it here, Steezy. Welcome, man.
Yeah, how you guys doing? I'm so sorry for the wait. As soon as I got home, my Wi-Fi decided to have issues, and so I think I'm going to try to adjust that sometime later today. But I'm just happy to be on. Hope you guys are doing well. Thanks.
Man, we're doing great. You look good. The important thing is you look good, though. You may show up a little bit late, but you're always going to look fine.
I try my best. Thank you.
You don't let that. You keep the term Filipino time, strong and alive. So.
I try not to embody that. But I can't help it.
I know. Sometimes it's bad luck. We know. But hey, I wanted to say, but I didn't want to go to the important point without you. So, one of the big highlights is I got to do this before Daniel has to leave at 2:30. So, we talked already about the NFC Championship game, but I want to move to the AFC Championship game because, as we know, not only was it a spectacular game that went way different from how most of us thought it was going to go, but Daniel did something that nobody's ever done on the show, and that was he predicted this game, not only the right winner against all odds against all of us, but he got the right score correct. So let me play back the summation of exactly what went down last week when we talked about the AFC Championship prediction. Check it out.
My heart is going with the Bengals. I think it may come down to defense, and for that reason, I think the Bengals are going to pull it off by 3 points.
No, put stake on it, Daniel. Put stake. Courage of your conviction.
You have to give me odds for this one. Like, if the Bengals win, I need 2 stakes, and if the Chiefs win, I'll buy you 1. Who wants to take that bet? 2-1.
I'll take it.
I'll take it.
You guys both take it? Damn.
We'll
4-2. All right. Shake on it. Here we go.
Daniel's got the Bengals 27, wishful thinking, 27-24 over the Chiefs, which is the bet he's got going on with you guys.
Norb, if the Bengals win, I might not be here next week.
There you go. That was what down in last week's prediction show on the AFC Championship game. Proof is in the pudding, and Squabo, you said you may not be here if the Bengals were to win that game, but you're here, so props to you for doing so. But Daniel not only guessed it against the three of us saying with no chance the Bengals beat the Chiefs at home, but he got the score perfectly right, 27-24, and he had a 2-1 bet against Squabo and Steezy, so they both owe him 2 stakes apiece. So Daniel, you get 4 stakes from these guys for getting this bet correct. So Daniel, how do you feel, man? Here's your chance. The Eat Crow, the Gloat Show. Tell me how you're feeling having won that bet and fooled us all.
Yeah, I'd like to thank my mom first and foremost for, birthing me and taking care of me. Both my parents. I'd like to shout out Jesus Christ, my Lord and Savior. I'd like to shout out my team, Dovinh Group. And, also, I woke up this morning and I was thinking, man, I won 2 steaks from Squabo, right? I was like, I want 2 ribeyes, medium rare, and I actually forgot that both of them bet me 2 steaks. So this is excellent. I get one from Calvin and my man Tardy Sauce over here. That's your new nickname.
Damn.
Super excited. We're gonna go to Daniel's Broiler. I'll get the appetizers and all the desserts, all the sides, but you guys can get the steaks. How about that? So super excited. You know, my man Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, they came in the clutch. And they came in with the swag, so super, super excited. I can't say I knew where that came from, except that was where my heart was. So I think I might go buy a lottery ticket now. So
yeah, you should. While Lady Luck is on your side. So Squabo, I want to get just your reaction. I know you've been kind of holding it back for this moment. So you're facing the guy who proved you wrong. You got to eat crow today, Squabo. What do you have to say for yourself?
You know what? It's time. It's time. So I've had to think a lot about, I've had ever since Sunday to think about how the hell I'm about to do this part of the show. So I've thought about it, right? First of all, I just wanted to say, Daniel, congratulations. Of course.
Thank you.
You were right. You were right. I have to say that. I know you and I have spoken and we've talked about getting to know each other a little bit better. And this is our opportunity to do that. So I am excited about that. And you're out here offering to do all the advertising and stuff. Look at you. I'm gonna have to make a trip out there ASAP so that we can go and I can pay you up on this bet. And I don't think Pete Carroll's going anywhere, Norb. So you can join us at the dinner table.
Hey, yeah, I wouldn't want to miss it. Yeah.
But I do have to say, Daniel, you're so successful. You're so successful with the real estate business and on Instagram, 11,000 followers. I didn't even know that. And you're obviously well connected. You know what I'm saying? You're so well known in the greater Seattle area. And then Norb, how long have we been doing the show together? A couple months now with Daniel and me and Steezy. And
pretty fresh, yeah.
It's pretty new, and ever since you came on, you've just been losing every single debate. So I'm so happy for you, Daniel. You're finally able to come away with the W. It's the one thing we bet stakes on. In the past, look, even the other, it's been so bad. There's been times where I've made a bet with Norb, and you've been the Steezy that added on to the losing bet. So I'm happy you got your comeuppance. Well deserved. You were right. Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
All right, so you wanted to care to respond? I was going to get Steezy's take on this.
Look,
so Steezy, your chance to make your confession, rebuttal, whatever, what have you. Go for it, man.
You know, all I gotta say is, hats off to Daniel. I mean, it's one thing to predict, the outcome of the game. He had the Bengals winning, but it's another to predict the right scorer. I mean, if I were you, I would have submitted, a little something at the EQC last week with that same exact score. And who knows? I mean, I saw someone on Bleacher Report put in $20 to win $600,000. And I know that was like a 17 parlay, but maybe you could have touched a couple of thousand, predicting the final score like that. So, props to you, bro. Much respect. And congratulations. I've had crow before. It doesn't taste that bad. So I don't mind, having it again. I've definitely had my fair share. So, however you want to do the steak thing. I know you talked about, providing appetizers and all that for, some sort of dinner. However you want it, bro, just let me know. And, it's 2 steaks on me, 2 steaks on Squabo, and I'm ready to serve it.
Hey, appreciate that. You know what we're going to do? We're going to tell you 6:15, but the time will actually be 7:30.
Hey, you wouldn't be the first.
Shoot, I'm supposed to tell him, though. If he knows that, it's going to factor into the planning. So that's going to be great. And we will definitely have to do a video when we get that live in person first time and we're all together, paying off bets. It's going to be it'll be a great little video to do a true round table in an actual place with a table. So that'll be fantastic. So, I want to. Now this game, Daniel, it looked like by halftime that you were going to be way, way off. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but who would have thought that at the end of the first half, the Chiefs, and this is to me the turning point. They had the ball at the 2-yard line with seconds remaining. A field goal in their hands. But they failed to score. They go for the touchdown. Mahomes throws it to Tyreek Hill around the left side, and he gets tackled inbounds. No timeouts left. They can't stop the clock. No points. 21-10 was the right. Was it 20-10 at that point, or 20-3? 20-10. 20-10 at the half. Now, Kansas City also were to get the ball back in the first half, if I'm not mistaken. Now, whoever thought that the Kansas City Chiefs, who scored like back-to-back touchdowns the previous week in the span of like 30 seconds, would go 2 full quarters until the final seconds of regulation to score a measly field goal. Who in the world would have bet on that?
Somebody
I don't think
crazy.
Anybody.
And that's
Somebody
why
crazier than Daniel.
Daniel needs to be drug tested. I'm calling for it. There's no way he makes that bet. There's no way. 4-1, no way.
See, and if you were to go at halftime and say, hey, Daniel, this is Squabo, man. I know you bet that they're going to win 27-24. If you want to cancel that, I will allow you to take it back right now and just call it. And I'm sure you would have been like, okay. But unbelievably, the Bengals rallied and shut out the Chiefs and managed to tie that ball game up and then send it to overtime. But, man, it was a crazy game. The Kansas City Chiefs blew it. Let's be honest. They blew that game. They should have won that game. There's no reason. And whether you put it that the Bengals made the plays and the Chiefs didn't, or the Chiefs screwed up, I want to get your take. Was it better Bengals performance or a Chiefs meltdown? Let's go to the Nostradamus of predictions. Daniel, why don't you start with you, who guessed it right? What was it? Was it a better Bengals job, or did the Chiefs bungle the Bengals game?
Bungle the Bengals.
Daniel.
Well, I will say this. If Squabo called me, Steezy called me, you called me at halftime and said, you still want that bet? I would have said double or nothing. You know why? Because that was absolutely the momentum piece. And something that I got from their coach after the game that I thought was really interesting, showed a lot of mental toughness from the Cincinnati Bengals, is he said, we had a situation like that earlier this year where we stopped a team, that could have kicked a field goal and we came back to win that game. So we've been in this situation before. The fact that it was only an 11-point lead instead of 14, that is, when it's 14, it's like you have to score 2 touchdowns, right? With 11, it just seems a little bit less. Yes, it's still a multi-possession game, but there's something mentally that happens as momentum going into halftime, right? And according to Pete Carroll, there's nothing better in football that you remember more than stopping the other team in the red zone. And I think that's really fascinating. Also, Joe Burrow hadn't started cooking yet, Jamar Chase didn't really start cooking yet. And as we know, especially in the playoffs, that fourth quarter is long. People hold their timeouts. They got 5 or 6 timeouts. You got all these TV timeouts. Oh, we got to review this play, review that play. Oh, we got to check
2-minute warning.
Yeah, 2-minute warning. And it ends up being like, an hour for the fourth quarter. And when you give, Joe Burrow that much time, I like that he ran the ball so much as well after looking at the film of their first matchup. I thought that was clutch. And I will say this, I thought it was a wonky play call. Of course, it's easy to say now because after the fact, but to throw the ball, laterally essentially, like, yes, I get the yards after catch thing, but I've seen the Chiefs do a lot more creative, forward, kind of action where it's not as risky, and it's kind of more
You're talking about that end of first half play that they didn't score on?
I didn't, in hindsight, of course, not good, but like, what about Travis Kelce? What about actually throwing it to the end zone? What about, I've seen Pat Mahomes recently do a scoop pass, right down the middle. So it was a little bit, that's on the Chiefs too. And I think Andy Reid's kicking himself, literally. So anyway, I think it was a little bit of both, but I would say it was more on the Bengals taking it, But I'll also say this, for 2 weeks in a row, the Chiefs showed that they get super tired. So they were missing a few pieces on defense. Frank Clark couldn't do it on his own. They need a few more pass rushers. But I was surprised as anyone. But, looking back, once you see Joe Burrow's swag walking in the stadium, you're like, not surprised anymore.
Speaking of that stop at the end of the first half, they did it again at the end of the second half because the Chiefs were in position to win that game outright with only seconds remaining. They had the ball first and goal at like the 5 or the 4 yard line. And then, they got stopped. They get a couple sacks. And next thing you know, they're having to settle for a 40-something yard field goal. That's twice they stopped the Chiefs, who were almost unstoppable in the red zone. So you got to give the Bengals defense a serious amount of credit for that. Plus, they got that pick six, the lineman, who very rarely do you pick off Patrick Mahomes in the playoffs. They did it to him with the linemen's taking that. And that might have been the pivotal play of the game there to set up a score going the other way. That just rarely happens. So, that was pretty crazy, too. So, Steezy, how about you? Other takes on the AFC game? Shocking.
Yeah, honestly, I got to say, hats off to the Bengals defense. Hats off to their pass rush. I don't think Kansas City converted a single first down in the second half until the fourth quarter. And so, obviously, Cincinnati's defense has a lot to do with that. Their pass rush definitely turned it up a notch. Sam Hubbard, DJ Reader up the middle. Trey Hendrickson, who I was very skeptical when they signed him because he had a career year with the Saints last year, but all throughout the playoffs, he's been nothing but disruptful, and he's just been such a tremendous asset to that defense. But I got to say, I'd attribute more of this loss to the Kansas City Chiefs imploding. Not only was that play call very questionable at the end of the first half, Norb, like you just alluded to in the second half, they had a chance to put the game away. 5 yard line, first and goal. Patrick Mahomes takes a sack. I think it was on second and goal. It was 2 sacks that he took.
2 sacks.
But it was terrible decision making on his end. I don't know what he was thinking. And then the 2 interceptions, the one that was tipped by the defensive lineman, and then the one in overtime that was also tipped. I believe it was Tyreek Hill whose hands it was deflected off of, and he's been struggling with drops all year long. And so, look, I'm not trying to take anything away from that Bengals defense and what they did. And the defensive staff, the coaching staff, and all that, they definitely did a tremendous job. But for Kansas City to just choke away like that, let's not forget, this team put up 84 points in the first 2 games combined. And so for them to come in here and just completely fall flat, they put up 21 at the half. They were absolutely on fire. And so I feel like it was kind of more them giving it away than Cincinnati really taking it away. I mean, credit to Joe Burrow. Him and the offense, they did what they've been doing all year long. Evan McPherson hasn't missed a single kick all playoffs. And so a lot of credit to them. But I just feel like with Kansas City, I mean, those turnovers, the terrible decision-making, they almost stopped running the football in the second half. Andy Reid with some questionable play calls. It's just very unlike them. I know at the beginning of the year, they did have some turnover issues, and so we saw glimpses of Patrick Mahomes returning to that. But I got to say, it was more about them imploding than Cincinnati really turning up, though. I hate for that to come off as me taking anything away from the Bengals because they also did a phenomenal job. But, yeah, credit to the Bengals, and here we are.
Yeah, definitely some heroic performances by the Bengals by both sides of the ball. Squabo, let's get your 2 cents on the AFC Champ game before we move on. I know Daniel's got to go, so I want to get a couple of words from him before he leaves. But Squabo, your take real quick on the AFC Champ game.
They got too comfortable. The Chiefs did. They got way too comfortable. You take the points right before the half with barely any time left rather than throwing a lateral pass to Tyreek Hill where he gets tackled in bounds and it's the half, right? So I don't know if y'all remember, but when I first got my license, right, and I started getting a little money to my name, right, and I started working my first couple jobs, right, fast food is always available. There's always places. You go to the grocery store, you go to McDonald's, you go to Wendy's, none of which are sponsors, but they're all great options for a young person who just got their first money and transportation device. And you always have access to them. So what happens? You start to cook less at home. And when you cook less at home, you're I can always just pick something up later. I got it. I don't have to take out the meat to the frost overnight or any of that. And then a pandemic strikes, and then a snowstorm strikes. Nobody's driving you to deliver you that food. You're not driving out there to go get that food, and those restaurants are closed, a.k.a. you're left hungry at the dinner table. That's what happened to the Kansas City Chiefs. They know good and damn well they can drive the field in 10 seconds and go score a touchdown with Tyreek Track Race Hill. And they know how quickly they can go down the field, and they're so explosive. They can come back from 24 points down. But they got too complacent. They got too comfortable. They knew that at any point they could just explode and go win the game just like they do every single week. This time it didn't happen. This time they were the ones that took out the turkey 3 days before Thanksgiving while you were in the McDonald's drive-thru the night before Thanksgiving. Didn't work out for you. Now did it, Kansas City? Because now the Cincinnati Bengals are in the Super Bowl.
Wow, good analogy. I never thought McDonald's fast food would be an analogy to Kansas City Chiefs blowing the AFC champ game, but well put, man, well put. So, okay, I know that Daniel's got to go here, so I just want to take, I was going to get into more of the Super Bowl and stuff, but we got next week to do that too. So I think we'll wait on score predictions for next week.
Yeah, I got like 10 minutes.
Hopefully your Nostradamus prediction hot streak will carry over into next week and not have evaporated by then. But... And we'll see if there's any bets to be made for next week. I don't think there will be. But before you go, because we only got a couple minutes left before you have to take off, we did have breaking news today that the Seahawks have signed, or promoted, I should say, Clint Hurt from within the Seahawks, from line coach to defensive coordinator. I wanted to get your take on this move. Are you happy about it? Are you surprised? Is this good, bad? What do you think?
Well, I think Clint Hurt's a good guy. I love watching the mic'd up stuff and listening to how he coaches. He's such a D-line coach. He looks like a D lineman. He talks like a D lineman. He's been here. He's definitely a Pete Carroll guy, right? So my initial feeling was it felt like a lateral move for the organization initially, because last time I checked, our D-line didn't exactly crush it this year, I don't know where we rank in pass rush, but it wasn't in the top half. I'll also say he was part of the defensive staff that helped us have a terrible start to the last 2 years. I'll also say, I was trying to reason my way through, and I was thinking, okay, well, Pete Carroll is a big safety guy, right? Free safety, strong safety. He played safety. He really knows the back end well. He also has a way of cornerbacks, as we've seen in his history, a little bit more of a unique style of coaching that up, right? Kick step, the long, lanky guys with a lot of attitude, all this stuff, right? But maybe the idea was Ed Donatel, he could be sort of like the experience and the wisdom and the kind of macro. Clint Hurt can really focus on the D-line. Pete Carroll can control the back end. And my thought was maybe that means we're going to bring back Bobby Wagner. He's going to be a coach on the field again. They'll probably ask him to restructure his contract, which may be awkward because I'm pretty sure he's representing himself. So it wasn't a super exciting move in my head, but I'm glad that it wasn't just one piece. It sounds like they got a few moving parts here, and they're thinking outside the box in terms of support. One of you guys said in our group chat earlier, kind of defensive coaching by committee. I'm not opposed to that, but at the same time, my ideal person would have been Brian Flores, who would have been the heir apparent to Pete Carroll. But that guy is definitely head coaching material, and also he just opened up a major can of worms that you guys can talk about with Squabo and Steezy on their channels. But yeah, that's a whole nother thing. But he was my ideal as far as leadership, technical ability, experience with the Patriots, and again, younger and could take over for Pete Carroll in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years, whatever. Most likely 1 or 2 or 3. But anyway, that's my initial thoughts. What do you guys think?
Yeah, let's go to Steezy. What's your take on the breaking news of this finally signing and of making it official for the defensive coordinator position?
So initially, I was with the mindset that, this is gonna be another lateral move. He, like Daniel mentioned, he was a part of the the last couple of years where the defense was historically bad. First half of the year. So what else is he gonna bring to the table that we are so lacking in? And I don't know. Just like Daniel, I also tried to reason myself with the move. I tried to add some perspective to it, and the more that I think about it, the more that I think that he's actually maybe not a great fit, maybe not the best fit, maybe not the best option, but I think he's an adequate replacement. I mean, yes, the defensive line in terms of pressure wasn't very good this year, but we were top 5, top 10 in terms of run defense, and I know we started off horribly in that department, but as the year progressed, we started shutting down the run on a regular basis. And so if Bobby Wagner is going to stick around, I mean, I think our linebacking core with him and Jordan Brooks and Cody Barton, we have something special in that group. Pete Carroll could take care of the defense, or at least the secondary, the back end, the corners, and the safeties. Clint Hurt, like I also said in our group chat, I think he's kind of a guy that all the players gravitate to. He's a younger guy. And so I'm not exactly sure what he's going to bring to the table as far as, any sort of experience that can maybe not push Pete, but at least have Pete kind of change things a little bit. But I just feel like with him, we had a guy in Ken Norton he was a linebackers coach, right? He eventually became defensive coordinator. He barely blitzed, and all the other defensive coordinators that we've had in the past, all those guys, they never really blitzed like that. And I feel like by bringing in a guy whose main focus or line of expertise is the defensive line, maybe he's able to bring something out in the trenches that we haven't seen yet. And I just feel like with him, like I said, he's a guy that the players in the locker room love. They gravitate towards him. And I just feel like being a younger guy, I don't know. He looks like he's a guy that was actually on the verge of leaving. And so maybe another reason why we decided to keep him around is because Pete Carroll didn't want him to leave. And maybe there's a reason why we didn't want him to leave. And so I know a lot of this is just speculation, but maybe he's a guy that ends up blitzing more. Who knows? Just because all the guys we've had in the past, they weren't really, blitz heavy type of guys. But we have different guys patrolling the linebackers, the secondary. And so if he's able to just focus and concentrate on the defensive line, we have an Ed Donatel who has a lot of experience working through, great units defensively over the years. I think we could, have a good, solid defense. Obviously a lot of it is speculation, but I'm looking forward to it, and I'm going to stand by it. So I guess I'm with it.
All right. It's Daniel had to take off. So, Daniel, I want to say thanks again for coming in. And, again, congratulations on your amazing, perfectly accurate pick of the AFC Championship game. I'm going to be very interested to see what he says about the Super Bowl coming up and see what he has to say about that, if there's any upset alerts. I hope there are, but something tells me that this may be the end of the line. We'll see. Squabo, how about you? One thing with this whole, what I'm intrigued by is the fact that there's this Vic Fangio connection with all these guys, including Hurt. I think there's even a connection with him in terms of the Vic Fangio defensive tree. One thing that is one of the staples of his scheme is that Seattle's normally a cover three type of three deep look, versus Fangio is more of a two deep safety kind of look. It's going to be interesting to see how that affects the use of Jamal Adams, because Jamal Adams normally plays most successfully up in the box, up the line of scrimmage. That may not be the case in this. It's going to be kind of interesting to see how they take all the pieces and try to fit them in this new scheme. But what's your take on the Clint Hurt being promoted to defensive coordinator?
Trey Lance, Kyler Murray, and Matt Stafford are all in our division. We have our work cut out for us. We are going against 3 offensive-minded head coaches, and we're the only defensive-minded head coach. So if we're going to go defense, we're going to go defense hard. Initially, when I saw this news, right, I wasn't too thrilled because my whole thing has been Pete Carroll has too much power, and this could be a figurehead move because he's bringing up a guy that has already been in the system, already knows everything Pete wants, and everything Pete says already goes. But then I started reading between the lines a little bit. I think it's good that we brought in Clint Hurt as defensive coordinator. I think it's good because of a couple of reasons. Motivation and value. We bring in Clint Hurt as our defensive coordinator, but we also bring in Ed Donatel, or expected to bring in Ed Donatel in a senior assistant role. There are also reports that the team hopes to hire former Bears defensive coordinator Sean Desai. Now, when you start to think about it, they're coming from the Bears and the Broncos, 2 organizations in the process of changing their head coach. So these are 2 guys that are looking to rebuild their stock. It's not just that, but now our defensive coordinator, Clint Hurt, he's been in-house. We're rewarding the guy that's been here. He's a defensive line guy. Ed Donatel works with secondaries, and Sean Desai specializes in safeties. So we're literally bringing in 2 outside voices to 2 departments of our defense that have been very difficult, very struggling. Defense, like offense in the game of football, if any one player makes a mistake, it can cost your team a game and inevitably a season. So the fact that we brought in 3 defensive coordinators, or potentially will bring in 3 defensive coordinators for the price of 1, I think that's a win in Seattle.
It's interesting, too. You talk about where these guys came from, Broncos and Chicago. These are 2 teams who defense has been pretty good. And what have they been lacking? A good quarterback, right? Both these teams have been struggling to find a good franchise quarterback. Still looking for that. But what does Seattle have? they have that. They have a franchise quarterback. So you take the successful defensive schemes from these two teams, I'll put into one. I feel really excited about what this might be, and I just hope it's not too many cooks in the kitchen. You don't normally see this defensive coordinator by committee. And you got to add Pete Carroll's philosophy into this. So you got basically like 4 people potentially all trying to figure out how to make this defense work. So it'll be interesting. I wish I could be a fly on the wall in one of their first defensive meetings. So guys, how do we fix this? Well, I think we should do this and put this. No, you got to put Jamal Adams over here. No. At some point, this all got to come together, and Clint Hurt is going to be the number 2 man in charge behind Pete Carroll, with the other 2 advisors, working together. So it's going to be interesting how this all works. But hey, at the end of the day, as long as the product comes out working, I'll be thrilled about that. So I want to play a little clip here. This was related to the defensive side of things, and it's about what the interview KJ Wright gave on a podcast recently. And he spoke out a little bit about the firing of Ken Norton Jr. and a little controversial. So here is what he had to say. Check it out.
What was your initial reaction when you found out that Pete or whoever had decided to move on from Ken?
Well, my initial reaction, I was upset, obviously, but my initial reaction was like, where is this coming from? Like, who is it coming from? If it's Coach Carroll, if it's above Coach Carroll, like, if it was above Coach Carroll, let's say it came above him and somebody said, changes got to be made defensively. My thing was that both Coach Carroll and Coach Norton, they both have a big hand in the defense, right? And my thing was, if a question was made to move on, did he have his back? Right? Did you have my back? Because we know that both of them have a heavy decision in the game plan. If you did not have his back, then that's why I got a problem with. Because I know that when it comes to game planning, when it comes to changing the scheme, when it comes to calls on Sundays, it's a tandem. And so that's why I've been upset is why is the finger being pointed here? Because if it's anywhere, it needs to be on us, not just on one person.
So, interesting words from longtime Seahawk KJ Wright. Steezy, what's your reaction to hearing what KJ had to say about the firing of Ken Norton Jr.?
I think he's 100% spot on. I think he's hitting the nail on the head. I mean, Squabo and I have both been on the record saying that Pete has a lot of power, maybe sometimes too much power in Seattle, and Ken Norton, along with some of the other defensive coordinators that have been in Seattle, most of the time, these guys are just yes men. They're running Pete Carroll's defense. Pete Carroll's the one who dictates the defense. He's the one. Yeah, Ken Norton has a say in the game plan when it comes to the scheme and how they're going to play opposing offenses and whatnot. But at the end of the day, like we talked about ad nauseum, Pete Carroll is the defensive mastermind, right? Or like he's the guy with the defensive background. He's the one who wants to dictate things on defense. He's the one who wants to, control this and do that and do this and do that. And so nobody ever wants to blame Pete, when looking at scapegoats. And I guess that's kind of understandable, seeing as how the only person really above Pete is Jody Allen. And, there's no one above Pete, especially ever since Paul Allen tragically passed away in 2018. The power has just kind of been all his, just because Jody Allen, from the looks of it, she chooses to stay away from the whole football operation side of things. And so when you take that into account, Pete Carroll is literally the guy in charge when it comes to the Seahawks. And yes, he has more say than John Schneider because he is the guy that has final say over all personnel. And so that being said, I'd have to agree with KJ, and I hope that people don't look at Ken Norton and say that he's the sole reason why our defense has been starting off terribly these last couple of years. He's not the sole reason why. Maybe he's not the yes man that everyone says that he is, but he's definitely not the only person to blame because Pete Carroll, he's the one running Pete Carroll's defense. And so I'd have to agree with him. I don't think there was anything super controversial with what he said. He was just speaking facts. And at the end of the day, sometimes the truth hurts. And when people hear the truth, they choose to react to it however they want to. But I think he was just speaking facts, and at the end of the day, he's the one who he's played in that locker room. He's played for both guys. He has, so much more knowledge than I guess we could ever really have, seeing as how he played there for so long. And so when he says stuff like that, I feel like, he's definitely coming from, a place where a lot of us can't speak on. And so I'd have to agree with him.
I've always thought it would have been cool if instead of being fired from his position, that he could have just been demoted back down to linebacker coach. Because I think he started as a linebacker coach. Obviously, has done a great job because all the linebackers who have played under him have been fantastic. So maybe he was really meant to be more of that position than coordinator. again, so I don't think KJ's wrong, but Squabo, let's get your take on it. What do you think about KJ's comments?
Well, I thought KJ was just supporting the point that I and Steezy have been trying to make, and the reason that I made the bet with you, Norb, about what was going to happen this offseason, and the reason I think Pete Carroll should have gone is because he has too much power. And by getting rid of Ken Norton, you are getting rid of a scapegoat, a figurehead, in a sense. If it proves to be successful now, and if Sean Desai and Ed Donatello come in and now this defense is spectacular, it's going to be a whole different story. And now it's like, okay, maybe we just needed some new voices back there. Maybe we wanted to move from linebacker help and attention when, we drafted Jordan Brooks in the first round. We needed pass rush help and we needed secondary help. And instead, we focus on the secondary and defensive line. Now our defense coordinator is a defensive line guy, and we're potentially going to bring in 2 guys to help with the secondary. So I think KJ's just like Richard Sherman, supporting the points that I've been making all offseason and even into last year, that Pete Carroll has too much power, and essentially it was a scapegoat. Also, I would like to mention, I don't know if y'all noticed the shirt that MSD Michael Sean Dewars was wearing in the podcast. It said Black Voices, and I remember he was one of the people that I've been so blessed to connect with at Washington State University. And I remember asking him about, how important it is for him to use his platform to impact change. And I know, Norb, this isn't what you asked about, but he wasn't wearing that shirt on accident. And especially with everything going on in the world right now, I just think it's so important to point out how he's being a leader and how we should look up to him.
Yeah, well said. It's cool that you guys had a chance to connect. It's amazing all the opportunities that you've been having over there at Wazoo with your leading up to where you're at today. I mean, it's fantastic. So I'm excited for both you guys and where things are going. So, all right. Well, we'll have to see where this defensive coordinator move ends up, where Ken Norton Jr. ends up, if he ends up anywhere. There hasn't been anything out there, right, as far as where he's going at this point. Have you guys written? I haven't heard anything about next moves for him. But I'd say at this point of the game, there's more I'd love to. I know you're going to cover this in your own show, so I think I'll let you guys talk about the Brian Flores thing. Is just fascinating in terms of what's going on. What you just brought up in terms of racial equality and that whole issue as it pertains to head coaches in particular in the NFL. This lawsuit from Brian Flores is it's bringing up a lot of warts from the NFL. It's going to be very interesting to see how this thing plays out. It could be some very ugly stuff coming out if some of the stuff turns out to be true. But I'll let you guys cover that in your show at 4:00. So the final thing I want to do is just to finish out here is a little more of the lighter tone. We know the Pro Bowl is going on this weekend. It's always the loser bowl, basically, because the teams that aren't in the Super Bowl, everybody else gets to play in this game. But Russell Wilson, you always got to root for him whenever he gets to be in the Pro Bowl. He's in there because Tom Brady, basically retired, so he kind of took his spot. Dwayne Brown got to be in there as well, slid in because I think Trent Williams for the 49ers couldn't make it. He bowed out, so Dwayne Brown took his place. But Russell Wilson tore it up in the passing skills competition, showing off a little bit about, what middle finger? I'll give you the finger about my finger. I'm doing this great. So that was, it's another feel-good moment for Russell. Did you guys catch that? And what was your reaction just seeing our Seahawks well represented, Russell doing Russell type things in the Pro Bowl? Steezy.
I was able to watch a little bit on Russell Wilson's Twitter. Actually, I know he posted a lot of clips of what he was doing, and I also saw on Twitter that he was liking a whole bunch of, I guess, receipts per se. A lot of people were talking about how he's no longer a top 5 quarterback, he's no longer an elite quarterback, and so I guess I got a lot of these things from Twitter. And I didn't watch the actual thing, but just seeing what I saw on Twitter, I can't say I'm surprised. I mean, this is Russell Wilson we're talking about. Now he's, 4 or 5 months removed? No, 3 to 4 months removed from finger surgery. And so for him to do that, I mean, it's Russell Wilson. So I can't say I'm surprised. And I know a lot of people are also talking about how this could be the beginning of the Russell Wilson revenge tour. And I just hope that he starts that in Seattle, or I hope that takes place in Seattle with us.
Yeah, absolutely. Squabo, what do you think?
Yeah. So I did watch the entire event. Most of my takeaways were about the other players, like Hunter Renfrow and Justin Jefferson should not ever throw the ball in the NFL. That's one thing that I learned. They were both terribly inaccurate. Neither of them scored a point. Or I think Renfrow did get 1 point, but at most 1 point. Mac Jones came in and he played pretty bad himself. No deep ball. He was trying to show how he could throw in no wind or in wind and cold conditions, but I think Bill Belichick was right to only let him throw 3 passes the first game at Buffalo, and I think it was evident by the outcome of the second game at Buffalo. But what Russell Wilson did, down, 13 points heading into his turn, dropping 29.
I think he needed 9. I think he needed 9 points to take the lead.
It was double digits. It was double digits.
Okay, all right.
Because they hadn't scored. They hadn't scored.
Okay, all right, we'll say 13.
Either way, 29 points. Yeah. When you needed 13, making his first 3 passes a 4, a 4, and a 5. And then missing because of the announcers that jinxed it. But then immediately after, just finding his rhythm, taking the checkdowns, taking the short passes. What this could mean, it didn't mean much in this competition because he's always been good at this competition. But what it could mean, if Russell Wilson can get Pro Bowl MVP, which not a lot of people think it's like, oh, that's not that big a deal. It's just a Pro Bowl. Teams aren't playing. Last time Russell Wilson had a 3-touchdown performance in the Pro Bowl, he should have got Pro Bowl MVP. The next year we won the Super Bowl. If Russell Wilson can go out, even if he doesn't win Pro Bowl MVP, but he has 3 passing touchdowns or something, I just want to see him ball out in the Pro Bowl. Next year, we ball out in the regular season.
Wow, look at you doing the homework on the Pro Bowl history, a game that nobody usually gives 2 rats asses about. Doing the homework connection between the Pro Bowl and the winning the Super Bowl the next year. I did not know that. Pretty good. That was a good one. That's pretty cool. Well, the Pro Bowl is always, I don't know. I guess I'll kind of watch it, but it's always hard. Whenever we have Seahawks playing in it, my only thing, I'm always hoping, please don't get hurt, please don't get hurt, please don't get hurt, please don't get hurt. That's all I think about whenever we watch that game. And then when it's over, whew, all right, they're still alive. Their knees are intact. Their arms and elbows are all good. We're safe for next year. But what else are we gonna watch, right? It's a week before the Super Bowl. So next week we will get into our predictions. We'll get a little bit more into the matchups with the Rams versus the Bengals for that game. But for now, we're going to pretty much put the wraps on things. So, Squabo, I'm going to let you start off first to say your farewells. Again, you are only 146? Is that right? Or no, 164. 164. Yeah. Not 146. The digits transformed. Transposed. 164. Let's get Squabo this week. Let's get up to 1K. Oh, it's only 164. Come on, everybody does it. We get there in one day. All right. So, Squabo, tell everybody a little bit. You got your show on in 1 minute and about in 1 hour and 10 minutes from now. Tell them what to expect.
Yeah, we're going to start by talking about the Brian Flores lawsuit, go into a little bit more detail about what's going on. He's accused the Giants, the Dolphins, and the Broncos of malpractices in terms of hiring black head coaches, and that's a very serious accusation. Now, they've all come out and released statements about what Brian Flores has said, so we're just going to talk about, objectively as possible, what's really going on and just give our takes. Obviously, we're not as plugged in as some people talking about it, but from a distance, what we can tell. And then also we're going to talk about how out of Chicago, Denver, Houston, Jacksonville, the Raiders, Miami, Minnesota, New Orleans, and the Giants, 6 of them already have head coaches. They're all white. Like that. We're going to get into all of that. We're going to talk more about the Seahawks defensive coordinator. We're going to talk about the championship games. We're going to talk about Tom Brady retiring, Super Bowl 56 key matchups, and finally NBA trade deadline predictions.
Wow, it's a full show. That's a lot to talk about, but that's going to be great. All right, so Steezy, I know you're going to be on that show as well, but let everybody know what to expect from your channel coming up here.
Right. First of all, I know I came on super late, but thanks for always having us. It's always a pleasure. Can't wait to be back on next week. And like Squabo says, be sure to tune in every single Friday at 4 o'clock p.m. At Squabo Says 4 o'clock p.m. Pacific time to tune into the Bolt. You know, if you aren't already subscribed, now's your chance. Now's your opportunity. And be sure to don't forget to leave a like and drop a comment. And also subscribe to Norb if you haven't already. And then last but not least, you can find me at Steezy A. Smith. Just dropped a video the other day talking about why I believe Tom Brady might not be done yet in the NFL. I don't know how you guys feel about that, but I kind of feel like he might be pulling an MJ later on. Who knows? I know he has nothing left to prove, but actually, I won't touch on it any further. Just be sure to check that out if you haven't already.
Watch it.
Squabo also dropped a video. Yes, sir. Squabo also dropped a video, I think it was last night, talking about how difficult it is, you know, wearing masks and whatnot. I thought it was beautiful production, beautiful narration. I loved every second of it. And it's not super long, so if you guys have a second, be sure to tune into that, drop some love, show some love, all that good stuff. And then last but not least for me, I will be dropping a DJ Reed video, why he's the best cornerback in the NFL you have never heard of, and why the Seahawks must re-sign him. I'll be coming hopefully, I think, tomorrow. And then after that, I will be touching on a whole bunch of different Seahawks free agents. You know, what's a Quandre Diggs contract going to look like? What's a DK Metcalf extension going to look like? The truth about Russell Wilson. I might be dropping my reactions on Clint Hurt, our new Seahawks defensive coordinator. And so much more to come. And I will be taking care of my internet issues later today. And so hopefully by next weekend, I will be having my first live show. And it will be a Super Bowl show. So a lot of things to stay tuned into. And thank you guys so much for your support. Again, I don't think I had the chance to say this last week, but thank you for helping me reach 3K. You know, it's definitely a milestone, and I couldn't have done it. I wouldn't have done it without you guys, Squab, Norb, everybody that's tuned in. Thank you so much from the bottom of my heart. And let's keep it going, baby.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And you know, we were talking so much about bets this show, but speaking of DJ Reed, since you're doing a video about DJ Reed, if you recall, Daniel's got a bet with I think it's just with, is it both of you or just with you, Steezy? About DJ Reed. Both of you.
I signed up for that.
Yeah, that's right. It's both of you.
Yeah.
That Daniel says, another one of those out there bets, that DJ Reed will get less than $10 million a year when he signs with his next team, whether that's the Seahawks or another team. That is shocking to me, but we will find out soon enough. But check out Steezy's video on it, and then when we do finally find out where he signs, we will definitely be having a show to react to that one, because we have yet another bet. How many steaks going around? It's a good thing we're all meat eaters here, because there's gonna be a lot of steaks at that first time we go out to Daniel's Boiler. And it's funny that we call it Daniel's, because apparently right now Daniel's owns it, because Daniel Dovin's killing it on the bets. So we'll find out if he maintains it, or maybe this might cancel each other out depending on how this all works out by the time we get to when all the dust settles. But anyway, in the meantime, make sure you guys subscribe to their channels. You'll find their channels in the descriptions, and keep watching. I got at 5 o'clock today Pacific time, I've got my Madden franchise mode NFC Championship game, my Seahawks my version of the 21 Seahawks going against the 21 versions of the Packers. NFC Championship in Lambeau. I lost this game last year, couldn't make the Super Bowl. I'm going to try to avenge that loss this year at 5 o'clock today. So check it out, have a little fun. Since the Seahawks aren't playing, you can watch me try to help the Seahawks in my little world make it to the Super Bowl. So having a little fun while we're in this off season. So, all right, you guys, thanks for watching. Appreciate it, and have a great weekend. Thank you, fellas, for being on here, and go Hawks.
Go Hawks. Shout out Tyler.
Norb's like, I'm out.
It says we're
But
still
y'all
on.
saw. No, we still on. That's what's.
Oh, we still
like,
on.
you know what? Maybe I'll just turn off my camera.
I mean, I kicked myself out, but I didn't end the broadcast. We're out of here. Later, guys. Go Hawks.
Okay.